Welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Mystery School. Today, we are talking about all things power related, your personal power, where you may have given it up, but also where you might have projected onto another person and also utilized their life force energy. Often, when we look at anything in relation to do with our own power, we often think of the circumstances in which, quote unquote, someone took power from you. And usually, when we see these perspectives, we're usually more in the victim state of mind. When I talk about victim state of mind, what I am talking about is usually the mindset of where there's a fear of being treated in a cruel and unjust way because you have experienced that in the past. So it becomes like a lens or a filter that usually extends beyond the circumstance. I'm not saying that people aren't victims and they aren't treated that way. Absolutely, they are. They go through those experiences. But sometimes, and even speaking from my own personal experience, we hold on to that lens. So we look at life of how people are taking from us, how people are using us, how people are doing all these things. But as adults, what we fail to see is that we're still coming from that child mindset if those experiences happened when we were young. And when we do this, we continue to see things from this perspective. And often we don't realize that we hold the permission for ourselves to remove ourselves from any situation that makes us uncomfortable, any situation in which we feel unsafe. We often feel as if we don't have a choice and we go along with things because of the programming and conditioning. And this is why I really want to talk about this as well as the opposite side of things too, because I hope this gives any sort of listener the permission that they need to actually start putting their foot down in life, to start setting those boundaries, to start removing themselves and taking themselves away from situations that are full of gossip, that aren't adding to their highest expression, that is really just a distraction. Like, for example, when you start to make changes in your life, if you start to stop drinking, usually what you do is stop surrounding yourselves with situations that are full of alcohol, full of distractions, full of temptation or potential there. So when you do this, you remove yourself out of the resonance and you really start to focus on why it is that you even needed that in the first place. It's very similar when it comes to any other situation like gossip or drama, because those become addictions too. Addictions aren't always just alcohol and drugs, it's also certain behaviors and ways of being. So if you notice you've been engaging a lot in drama or in gossip, and things always seem to be a sense of chaos, then ask yourself, where have I seen this before? Where has this become the norm for me? And how can I step away from this? Because usually, what the drama and gossip cycle does is create emotional highs and lows, also distraction from your own life by focusing on someone else's. Regardless of what is being talked about is true or not, if it's someone else's life and they're not there talking about it, but everyone else is talking about it, then the best thing you can do is set some boundaries. Remove yourself from the situation. Stop engaging with those dynamics because they will never change if you continue engaging. So, cycling back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago here about calling back your power, being in this lens of I don't have a choice, having to go through with things, and then going into the space of setting boundaries and giving yourself permission to remove yourself from anything that is unsafe. And reminding yourself that as the adult, you can give that child self what it is that you didn't have. So, was it protection? Was it love? Direct those things to you and be the adult that you needed if these experiences stemmed in childhood. But as adults, if we're still not taking these steps, it's probably because somewhere along the line in our childhood that we learned that we didn't have a voice. Our decisions were wrong. We couldn't make decisions, right? Children have a different sense of free will, obviously, because they're learning and they're growing. And obviously, parents do the best that they can, but often they will pass down the same beliefs, same conditioning, same unhealthy habits and behaviors if they're really unaware of what they're doing. And this is why it's important to notice that if you're constantly in this place of everyone's taking energy from me, I'm always feeling depleted, this is a signal for you to change something about your circumstance and how you view yourself. When you're able to fully express, set boundaries, also research it. Research boundaries if this is the work you haven't done yet, because it is going to get uncomfortable. But if you feel like life is that place of where people just take from you and you're always expecting someone to screw you over, this is the inner work you need to face. No, you did not deserve circumstances that happened to you in the past. But if it's a continuous loop and pattern, you've got to ask yourself, where am I agreeing to this? What energy or emotion do I feel when I think about someone using me and my energy or my talents or my gifts or taking credit for me and who I am? What emotion do you feel and where do you feel it in the body? Usually our emotional wounds are our agreements for it to continue. And often when people take from us, it's because we might have a subconscious belief or feeling that our body isn't our own, our energy isn't our own. We have to be quote unquote selfless and give to other people. This is not being in service. On some level, we feel it is true that people can take from us. Maybe it's a belief system around, I can't protect myself because as a child you weren't able to, because children should not be able to protect themselves from grown situations that they did not ask for. But again, that child perspective takes it as a negative of what they did wrong or incorrectly. So this is also a potential reminder that this could be inner child wounds to address. There is a lack of that sense of confidence here, a lack of assertiveness. And to me, it represents many times of the fawn response of where we just kind of energetically play dead. We feel like there's nothing we can do to get out of this. We don't have a choice. And that is one of the biggest things, is feeling as if we don't have a choice. It's the illusion that we don't have one. And often what comes up is, if I make this choice, how is this going to affect the outcome? What is the potential fear or danger of the outcome? And maybe setting boundaries with a certain person or removing a certain person is going to cause chaos in the perceived family or friend cycle. So we want to avoid that. So then we continue going against yourselves and what you know is right for you. And then the cycle keeps continuing because we have to do the uncomfortable thing. We have to do the hard thing. And the reason why we face resistance is because we're being asked to grow as a person into a new state of being. Anytime we take action, it is changing who we are, especially if it's a new action. That gets to be pretty uncomfortable when you start to grow, because you shift out of the comfort of the frequency of who you were and you start moving towards the person that you want to be. So does the person you want to be someone who's confident and capable and doesn't allow people to take from them? And I know in many situations and circumstances, it feels like, oh, it just happens. I don't know what to do. But the thing to remember is to come back to your heart center, come back to love. If you notice someone trying to pull on your energy, release it with love, affirm your boundaries, And if your boundaries keep getting bulldozed a couple of times, 3 times, it is time to take a step back. It's time to start removing yourself from that situation. If it's not adding to the highest expression of you, if it's not adding to abundance, if it's not adding to, yes, it's just not adding to who you are. It's really important to ask yourself the questions of, is this contributing to my growth? And now we get to talk about the other side of things. So often we shift from one extreme to the other. It's human nature. We are humans. We do all these weird things. But then the other side, and we all do this, okay? So there's not one of us out there that has not ever not done this. The other side is where we project onto other people what we want, what we think they should be doing. Maybe we were instigating some of the drama gossip cycles for a time. Maybe we've hooked into people with our energy, our power in an inappropriate way, like giving inappropriate advice to someone who didn't want it. Or maybe we were super angry at someone, and instead of going through conflict resolution, we created so much mental energy of anger and we kept throwing that energetically at the person that we hooked into them. So remember, we've all gone through both cycles. We've all had people hook into us and we've hooked into other people. So when it comes to calling back your power, not only are you calling back your own life force energy, but you're releasing other people's life force energy that you hooked into and brought into your energy field. No one is perfect. We are human. Some people do it intentionally, and a lot do not do it intentionally. It's just a lack of awareness. And of course, I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about sociopaths. I'm not talking about narcissists here. Okay, that's a whole different story. But I'm just talking about on the average scale, average scope. Many of us are conditioned and taught to get life force energy from outside of our divinity, from outside of divine source. Earth energy is different. That is vital earth energy, and we need that too. But when it comes to other people, when it's a healthy connection, healthy relationship, what happens is that it expands both people's life force energies. You're not necessarily feeding off each other. You're not hooking into each other. You're not taking each other's life force energy. You're expanding your own life force energy together, your own capacity to hold more while you're in presence with someone else who is teaching you a lot about who you are. If it's a healthy friendship, relationship, family dynamic, you will feel that expansion of your gifts in presence with people like that. Some of the things to be very aware of as well. So when you're hooking into life force energy from other people, how that would feel is that it's very similar to the opposite. Like when you're around someone, you feel really good, and then when you leave their space, you feel depleted. This can be true on both ends of the spectrum. Maybe you're the one hooking in, maybe they're the one hooking in. And it's not a way of looking at it of who's right, who's wrong, who's bad, who's good. We don't need to go into more extremes. What we need to figure out is, what is the agreement here? Why am I hooking into this person? Why am I projecting my beliefs onto them? Why am I trying so desperately to make them think like me or do the things that I want them to do instead of having a collaborative conversation? And maybe that's it for a lot of people, is that they don't realize that there can be that sense of collaboration, that sense of healthy communication, because many of us are not taught how to healthy communicate, how to set healthy boundaries, how to have a fulfilling interaction. Just as you have needs, so do other people. And it's about figuring out if there's a way to create a common ground, a common understanding, what you're both able to do. This could also be in work situations as well. Being very aware of how you're treating other people and how you're being treated in return. Usually in healthy work dynamics, what happens is that you are seen for your natural talents. You're in the right position based on what your talents are. You're recognized for what you do. And in unhealthy, toxic work environments, which I've seen time and time and again, is that the only time that they ever communicate with like management to the employees is if something is wrong. There's lack of recognition majority of the time. And when things are bad, it's bad. It's that whole phrase that shit rolls downhill, you know? And when there's healthy leaders in positions, when there's healthy leadership and management, the rest actually trickles out. So usually toxic work environments reflect somewhere in the leadership. There's a lack somewhere in the leadership, whether it's integrity, whether it's boundaries, whether it's communication, there's usually something lacking there. Because good leaders figure out why there's toxicity and they figure out solutions instead of letting it go. So ask yourself, is there anywhere in my body that I've taken on someone else's energy? And then asking anywhere that I've given my power to others. Where have I given my power to another person? And where have I possibly taken power from another? And just notice where you feel it in the body. Just close your eyes, take a couple circular breaths, just scanning the body, noticing anywhere in the body that lights up for you, or maybe you feel a discordant energy. Maybe it's tense, maybe it's hot or cold. And just notice with that intention of figuring out where in your body you're holding on to someone else's power or energy. And just scan through. And once you've found the places in which you've taken on someone else's energy, you can bring your loving attention to that space of where it is and work through them one by one, directing love, uprooting that energy out of the body, reminding yourself that it's no longer needed. And sending the energy back with love to whom it belongs. I usually like to apologize energetically as well. And if it is a physical person, if I feel like I need to reach out and to bridge that gap there, then I will also do that. And then remind myself that now I'm in a higher state of awareness and I can choose my actions differently. Because when you're a regular old normal human being who isn't actually being abusive and malicious and things like that, then you can go through the actions of really deeply forgiving yourself. Because I'm not talking about the other extreme of abuse right now. I'm just talking about regular people and how we may inappropriately use our energy. And even though it's not okay to use people, I've done it in the past, I understand. But also knowing where you need to take accountability and how and take that action. And then love yourself deeper with the level of awareness you have now. Understanding why you did what you did. And how can you receive that same benefit, but in an authentic, genuine way without using and hurting other people. And then you'll just work through those different energies one by one. And then once you've done that, you're going to do the same thing, but in reverse. You're going to scan your body asking where there's depletion, where there's an energy leak going towards another person, where you've given your power. And once you've found it, ask what emotion is present there. What agreement is allowing this to occur? Is it doubt? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Then you'll sit with that emotion, send love to that emotion, allow that emotion to release. And once it does, you can follow that cord to whoever it's attached to. You don't need to know who. And you can unhook yourself. Whether you feel it unhooking, you see it unhooking, however works for you. And just visualize all the power that's attached to that cord that is really you coming back through the cord, in through the body, creating a sense of wholeness. And do that for each energetic cord. And know you won't get them all in one go. Okay? This is not that purpose of scan through, find every single one, heal 100%, be, completely and aligned, and this will never happen again. This is a tool that you can use on an ongoing basis if needed. Because your body will only give you as much as you can deal with at any given moment. And this healing with our different levels of awareness will change. We will go deeper. And with more awareness becomes more reflection, higher state of consciousness. So just remember that as you work through these pieces, work through the discomfort. So I would love to hear from you what sort of insight you gained from this episode, and if you've paused and worked through those suggestions with bringing back your energy and also putting back other people's energy. And even though there is an agreement, so even if you've projected onto someone, it hooks in and there's an agreement on their end, as long as you send their energy back, the purpose isn't to necessarily heal them, it's to really heal what's inside for you as to why these events occurred. They're going to have to work on whatever agreements they have moving forward. And this is just coming from neutrality, just seeing things as there's a resonance, it's universal law. What resonates lands. It's up to us as individuals to figure out, what is my agreement? What is my emotional wound? Where can I send love and compassion? How can I release this and take this awareness moving forward and make decisions differently? That's how you build protection in your energy field, is by being genuine, authentic to you, and by having that self-reflection and level of intention in your life. So if you'd like to share some insights, my email is trinitysage333@gmail.com. But also on Spotify, you can leave comments on the episode as well. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Cassandra Finch, and I will be with you on the next episode.